Right, welcome back to WTSF, where I answer questions from Reddit/Street Fighter with in-game examples. I find the common themes for the week on Reddit, you then vote for which one you want to see most, and then I make a video based on that theme. And this week, for the first time ever on this channel, it appears to be a draw between new player essentials and dealing with spammers. So I'll try to cover both of those, but I'll start with that top one and we'll go from there. First question here from Bowie on Coca-Cola, great name for a Geordie accent like mine. New to Street Fighter 5, what should I start with? Hello there, I recently got Street Fighter 5 and managed to clock in around 6.8 hours on Steam. I finished the story mode for each of the base game characters so that I could pick a favourite or two. Without having checked any guides on YouTube, I went with Ryu and tried going through the challenge trials, made it to Volume 1 Combo 6 and gave up. Found a lot of his combos to be really hard, especially the ones where you kind of have to move the directional keys in a zigzag, I won't lie. It's kind of demoralising for me. Should I switch to pad? Our joystick's supposed to be unreliable because I found myself jumping at times when I shouldn't have been, and it's not my controller, I checked. Are there any comprehensive guides for absolute newcomers to the series that aren't obsolete? I feel like I'm lost here. Should I start with online matches? Any sort of help is appreciated. Thank you. So when it comes to newcomers who want to play competitively, they often fall into the same two traps that you did there, really. And to be clear, that is not your fault if you're one of those people. Fighting games historically do a bad job here of warming people up to how they're played. The first thing, playing against the computer is not going to teach you very much, especially in things like the arcade and the survival settings. Where it is going to teach you a lot is in practice mode. Second thing, learning the trials is not the same as learning combos. Again, fighting games really do fail quite often here when trying to explain what they're covering in a trials section. Firstly, this trial is supposed to be a little game in itself where it's giving you things and you're having to learn some difficult-ish execution in order to get around it. And the other thing is that the way that it does that is it gives you specific things that teach you a little bit about the mechanics in the game. So with Trial 6 here, it's not actually teaching you that jump heavy punch into axe kick into a medium DP is a good combo and a combo that you should be using in the game against other players. It's giving you a test in that it's trying to see how successfully you can go from a back motion into a DP motion, which if you're going to play a character that has that DP or Z motion in their moveset is something that you are going to have to learn. For example, you might need to do dragon punches from blocking. But the other one that this is trying to teach you here is how to do a cancel off a two-hit and axe kick. And what you'll find is if you try to do that dragon punch too quickly, it's not going to come out. And that's because it wants you to combo off the second hit. So in this one, it's about learning that second bit of timing, cancelling from halfway into the axe kick into the dragon punch. How you're supposed to know that without prior knowledge to fighting games, or without any sort of text or explanation on the screen, I do not know, but that is what the trials are trying to get over here. There are loads of great resources that you can find online. One has been right under your nose the whole time. If you click on resources here from r/Street Fighter, loads of stuff here about controller advice and all that kind of stuff. Some fundamental stuff. Really recommend this Sonic Hurricane Footsie Handbook, for example. There's one actually made by the people of Reddit/Street Fighter here called Geef's Gym, which is available as a paperback or for free online here. This one includes loads of great basics, as you can see here, as well as how to set up your training mode to practice these things. I'll link these and a bunch of other things at the bottom. In terms of spurious inputs, if you want to use this key display option that's here on the menu in training mode, switch that on, and you can see here on the left hand side all of my inputs. And then if you are missing a dragon punch, you'll be able to see why. Likewise, if you're doing things like your hurricane kicks and you're seeing a jump come out accidentally, you can see there that you're actually spinning it for too long and going into an up back. A lot of people just go into a normal controller input display when they think that their inputs are working okay and individually test them all. But what you need to be doing is looking at how the inputs are received when you are making dynamic motions. The fact is, when your back's up against a wall and you're trying to get a dragon punch out, you're not going to be as consistent on your controller as you think you are. And that's when things like random jumps are going to suddenly appear in your motions. If you want to pick a character that doesn't have dragon punch inputs, that's completely normal. A lot of people actually do that, and there's a good selection in Street Fighter 5 that don't require it. Again, in the pause menu here, if you go to command list and then press X to go to the character list, you can go through all of these and actually take a look. In here you'll find characters that don't even require any directional inputs at all for their specials. Next question from JK Coolbird, what can I do to get more matches? Playing on PS4 and it takes forever to find another human. Is there anything I can do to increase the speed at which I match make, or is it just random? My Wi-Fi seems to be fine. I've had matches with strong connections, but that doesn't seem to matter what gives. Starters here, you are going to be matched on the strength of your connection. Because of the online experience with Street Fighter 5, most people by default are searching for 4 or 5 bar connections. Do everything that you can to make your side as strong as possible, otherwise you're not even appearing on most people's search lists. Sure, enough people in the replies are already telling you about the difference between Wi-Fi and wired there that'll help you out, but just to transcend that argument altogether for now, I would say that the best way to get matches is actually to join a community. There are a bunch of wonderful Discords out there. For new players, I fully recommend starting with things like the new Challenger Discord. You see there's been people in here asking advice and looking for games as recently as 60 seconds ago. I'll leave a link to a spreadsheet that covers loads of different Discords, from characters to games to regional areas. But yeah, just find like-minded people and start playing with them. As much as you will find strangers online to play against, especially if your connection is strong, playing against people that you can actually talk to is a much better use of your time. Next question by JK Coolbird: which character should I learn the game as? I've been messing around with Seth, but both Laura and Ibuki look fun to play as. I'm very much a beginner and would like to know what is the best choice between the three before proceeding forward. I've said before, you can learn this game with pretty much any of the characters. Say out of the three that you've chosen, Ibuki's probably the most complex, Laura probably the simplest. But as a cross-section of everything that's available in Street Fighter V that you can learn from one character, maybe Seth's the best balanced out of those. All across the entire roster, I'd probably say that Nakali covers everything best. If you're learning this as someone who's brand new to fighting games in general, you want a character that can do anti-airs with both normal attacks and with special attacks. You want to have a character that covers things like invincible move properties that you can practice with. Ideally some poke and normals that will allow you to practice things like hit confirms, and a character that allows you to vary meter usage based on the situations that you're in as well. So Seth ticks a lot of those boxes, as do the other two. I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you're not a brand new fighting game player and you just want a character that teaches you what's different about Street Fighter V versus other Street Fighter games, if you are going to go with Seth, then I would recommend going for what I've got set up here, which is V-Skill 2, V-Trigger 1. Not only are those lighter in complexity, they also better match what the spirit of the V system is all round across all of the other characters as well. To say that the V-Skill tends to be a special like move that gives you something that then allows you to connect other parts of your gameplay together, and that V-Triggers are quite often used for combo extensions and conversions, quite often as a revenge or comeback factor, either midway into the round or to close out the round entirely if you're on the offensive. With Laura and Ibuki, both of their V-Skills and V-Triggers kind of cover that quite well, but I would say with Seth, if you do want to learn the game, these are the simpler ones to go through those mechanics with. Next question by Jay Lantern: does anyone have any tips for playing as Cody? Jay Lantern is a new player with Cody, but as a new player, you're going to have to learn the same things regardless of the character, so it's more about how do we find those things with Cody. We want to find quite fast moves with a decent-ish range, and those are for checking the opponent if they're trying to dash in on us. Quite often that's going to be a jab, but if we push all of the light buttons at different heights, we can see which ones look like the fastest kind of ones that we might want to pick. Next, we want to find a good anti-air. We're going to have a lot of opponents jumping at us in the early stages of the game. First thing we'll want to do is hit all of the buttons, see which of the moves look like they're going to hit above our head. We also want to hold directions while we're doing that to see if anything different comes out. It looks like with Cody it's going to be this stand and heavy punch here, and we can test that theory by setting our opponent to doing a jump in attack. We're also interested to see if we can cancel that into anything. With Cody in particular, it doesn't always work at a close range. Turns out that's what his V-Skill's quite good at. Just bear in mind he takes a little bit of grey life to use it. We're also going to want to learn what we can hit confirm with. We can do that by setting guard to random in the dummy settings. Here we'll find the stand and medium punch can be cancelled, and when it's blocked we're not going to do anything. Because we want to know how to defend ourselves in neutral, we're also going to want to know how to bypass neutral in Street Fighter V in particular. You can see that Cody has an armoured attack here that puts her at quite a negative number, and that's forcing her to guess whether she has to defend against an attack or a throw. Other things you're going to want to know in Street Fighter V include things like how do you cancel your V-Trigger. You're going to want to also find some straightforward enough cancels into your critical art, and at that point you're at least ready to stand up against other people in matches using general information. Once that foundation's set, you can start learning more specific things about your character and how to apply them. And last question by Eli89: Street Fighter V versus Street Fighter 4. I've been playing Street Fighter 4 for a while now and I'm thinking of switching to Street Fighter 5. How are the two games different? All I really know is that there is a buffer window, thank God. And that much is true, you don't really have to deal with link timing anymore. Most things have a nice input buffer, so it's more about how you react off your hit confirms than having to do every single piece of that execution that leads up to that. It's worth mentioning at this point that it's nothing like Street Fighter 4 when it comes down to weighing up execution over decision making. There are still a lot of things in this game that do rely on decent execution, but it was a big wake up call for me as an able player from Street Fighter 4 to see that I couldn't just rely on being good at bread and butters to get me quite far into the game. And as someone who played Chun-Li for Season 1 and Season 2 of Street Fighter V, determined to play it like other Street Fighter games, I can really say that it wasn't until I changed to a character like Mika, whose entire game plan is built around the concept of -2 and -3, that I really started to understand how it was played. And that was quite some way into the game at that point. So my best advice is do yourself a favour and don't try to play Street Fighter 4 in this game at all. Treat it like it's its own thing, it really, really is. Some things you absolutely will miss, other things do make this game deeper in different ways. That change in treatment of of execution has completely changed the way that people lab. Things like knowledge of your own character and knowledge of matchups is now way more valuable, I would say, than it was in Street Fighter 4. So as much as you might see people lamenting things like execution, it has brought up a different way to be tactical in this game. So build your game plans around frame advantage, find whatever things you do have that give you decent Oki, find ways to make use of this crush counter mechanic because this is massive. Try to use your V reversal at least once in a round if you've got a 3-bar V trigger, try to use it at least twice if you've got a 2-bar, and this will encourage that mindset of blowing your V gauge at some point in the later stages of the game. You build your CA meter or EX meter if you're coming from Street Fighter 4 a lot quicker, so don't be too shy about using it. As much as conserving meter across rounds was quite a big thing in Street Fighter 4, in this game most people would value winning that round over having a lot of resource to go into the next one, and that comes down to how quickly you can lose the advantage in this game from 1 or 2 mistakes. But yeah, both great games for their own reasons. Don't try to play one as the other. And that's it for another week on WTSF. Sorry I missed last week. The sentiment behind these things is that they don't take a lot of time to make. Not only did I spend too long trying to make last week's one, but then the audio messed up as well, and it just meant that I didn't have the time to complete it at all. So that's a lesson for myself there. Did cover some quite interesting topics, so I will try to reshoot one just around that stuff rather than covering questions in the near future. Thank you for all of the support I've been getting on this stuff. I'm close to 100 subscribers now on YouTube, past 50 followers on Twitch, and we now have 1 glorious subscriber as well. All in all, this came from just one video that I stuck up on YouTube one day, and all of the continuous support I've had since then, so thank you very much for that. Hopefully I can keep serving you up some good stuff in the future.